A while ago, I was looking for another airport to extend the coverage at my parents' house. You know, the walls here are made of real bricks and not cardboard, so uh, one airport was not enough to cover the entire house. So, of course, I went on eBay and I started looking for broken airports. And I found this AirPort Extreme, the latest generation, that was sold as spares or not working for 35 euros. Of course, I bought it, and it turned out that the problem was it couldn't be resetted. So no matter what, the reset button on the back was completely unresponsive. So I thought, well, I'll take it apart, and probably it's a bad button, because, you know, it happens. Maybe they pushed it too hard and they broke it. But unfortunately, the button was great, was working beautifully. The problem was somewhere else on the logic board, and this is the logic board of the airport. I lifted the heatsink, so you can see the main application processor, some RAM, and an SPI flash chip. You also see some voltage regulators, and this is where the button plugs into. Now, sadly, the traces go into the board, and I don't know where they end. They possibly go straight into one of the GPIO pins on the application processor. So I was screwed. I didn't know the credentials, so I couldn't reset it with AirPort Utility, and the reset button didn't work. So this was pretty much ready to go into the bucket of shame. But then I thought, well, this is a fairly large memory. If you read the part number, it's 32 megs. It's very, very large, so I'm expecting that not only contains the bootloader, but it also contains the entire operating system. So my idea was, considering that I already have an identical airport, was to dump both of them and maybe figure out a way to move the MAC addresses from this airport here into my firmware, of which I know the passwords, so I could reset it using AirPort Utility. So I desoldered the desoldered the chip, and it was actually very, very easy. Just put some Kapton tape, flux, heat gun, and off it comes, and hooked it up quickly to my Raspberry Pi, and with flash ROM I took a dump of the chip, and here it is. So the beginning here is actually very promising, because we have a MAC address. This is possibly the MAC address of the device, and a few other configuration bits here and there. If I scroll down, this is possibly the bootloader, and then we get into this. Now this is clearly clear text. What this means is that the file system, the main file system, is not encrypted and is not compressed. Now this is quite a surprise, because most other networking products, home networking products at least, they compress the image because memory is expensive. So if you can fit it into a smaller memory, that's a cheaper BOM cost. But this, here it is, it's all clear. Now I think the only advantage of that is that it boots in less time, because it does not have to uncompress the image. But I don't see any other advantages. But if I keep on scrolling, of course this is the entire image, but if we go down right here, now this is where the fun stuff is. These are all the configuration files for the airport, and they're also in clear text. So for example, this is the base station password, and there it is. It's looking at me. And if we scroll, you see all the other configuration, like the Wi-Fi password, the IP address, the name of the Wi-Fi network, everything is here. And it's here in multiple copies, because the airport, when resetted, does not delete the configuration, it just sets it aside. And this is what Joshua Stein found out and wrote in his blog post, which I suggest you read. So now, with the latest firmware, the airport does delete all the previous configurations, but only when it's resetted. So if the airport breaks, and even if you have the latest firmware installed, you still have not only the current configuration visible, but also all the previous ones. Now, even with the latest firmware, although the old configurations are deleted, the current running configuration is still present. And these are actually some fairly simple configurations, because if you configure the Apple ID, you will also see in clear text the Apple ID and a token. So it gets even worse. Now, of course, I was able to reset the AirPort after that, and it's now currently working, and it's actually right behind me. But of course, I sent an email to Apple regarding this issue. They didn't let me know, and they didn't reply. Actually, they replied, but they didn't tell me anything more. And about a year later, out of nowhere, the firmware 791, which is the latest, was released. Now I checked that, and although the what Joshua Stein found out has been fixed, so all the previous configurations are now removed, I'm still able to dump the firmware like before and read the configuration in clear text. So this hasn't been solved. Now I've told them about I told them about this issue, and they don't deem it as a security flaw. So they only fix this, and but the firmware remains in clear text. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.